Okay, so back to inflammation and the brain. All right, when your brain's inflamed, how do you think it feels?
Fogged up, foggy.
Foggy?
Sluggish.
Okay, sluggish. Any memory issues?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
Can't
some
win a game of
memory
Monopoly.
Any headaches? Anybody get headaches?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay, all right.
But I just mostly attribute it to, allergies like pollens and stuff, but I'm sure it's not.
Okay, all right. Cool. All right. I forgot why I asked you that, but
I'm sorry.
all right. So inflammation of the brain.
Yeah.
All right. So we build these proteins, and also there's broken DNA, there's damaged DNA, all in the brain, all in the entire body, and if those cells or that DNA replicates itself while it's damaged, do you think it could cause some problems?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could cause some real problems. A lot of the hereditary things that we get is turned on by those damaged DNA replicating themselves.
And are we damaging them, or were we born with some damaged DNA?
We are damaging them.
Okay.
We are damaging. Glyphosate's definitely a contributor to
Right.
that. Also, eating pro-inflammatory foods on a super regular basis.
What are pro-inflammatory foods, for example?
Okay, for example, dairy. Like with me, oh man, dairy just kills me, and it's not the lactose. Okay, dairy is inflammatory because of a protein in it called casein. Casein in the body, in the digestive tract, turns into a sludge. When that sludge gets, so you could be going like perfectly regular, okay, and then bam, you have some dairy, and then you just screeching halt everything. Maybe constipated for a day, maybe a little more, maybe it just comes out and it's just like a little pebble, all right, and it's just terrible. So if you want to try that experiment, go without dairy for a few weeks and then eat dairy, and don't introduce anything else yet, and see if you have that same problem. All right. Okay, so other inflammatory foods, anything grown with glyphosate. All right.
But I don't think most of the world knows that glyphosate is used on these genetically modified foods,
Yeah.
I think we just think of it as weed control, and I understand how weed control and agriculture go together.
If you spray the weeds in your lawn, it'll kill the weeds, but not your lawn.
Yeah,
So,
I understand that, but I'm still saying, I don't think people think of,
It being dangerous to your health necessarily, or not.
right, or I think I've always thought of it more as like runoff, I didn't think about it being near where you're growing foods,
well, they spray it on the food.
Yeah, but I didn't really realize it was to this extent, so, go ahead.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm enlightened.
Cool. All right. So anything grown with Roundup. Soy is one of those highly glyphosate residual holding crops. Like if you spray that glyphosate on that crop, it will hold it, and you will be eating that. And soybean oil is in every salad dressing, just about. So read your labels; it's gonna be in there. Let's see, a lot of companies, they fry foods with, fry foods in soybean oil. All right, and there's one other thing that's wrong with soybean oil that I think I need to get to later, because it's not really a cognitive function piece, and it's not really an inflammatory piece. All right, so other inflammatory foods, sugar, alcohol in the same glyphosate strips your gut lining, alcohol does too.
I'm dead.
Well, no, one of the things,
I'm looking at you, but I'm not like picking on you at all.
No,
I'm just
you
making eye
can't hurt my
contact.
feelings.
one of the things that Dr. Oz said
Hey,
this
Pop.
morning,
Hey Pop, this is my talk. I'm sorry.
I know, but I'm saying, one of the things he talked about was alcohol this morning. He said if you're gonna drink alcohol, drink clear alcohol, vodka,
Double dead.
you know, but not the brown,
Not bourbon, yeah.
not bourbon
Okay.
or
All right.
scotch.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Pop. All right. Now where was I? All right. Alcohol strips your gut lining in the same way. All right. Let's talk about grains. All right. So grains, they have proteins in them. They're not just carbs. They're heavily carbs, but they have a lot of protein in them too. And now,
Fiber.
well,
No?
originally, yes.
Oh, but then it's stripped away in the processing.
Right. In the processing, they rip it out so that you can eat more of it.
Right.
Right. They can part out the fiber and
Mhm.
sell it to a nutritional company and make more money, just like you would if you total your car. You know, your car's worth $1,000, maybe 400, but the engine itself, it's worth $2,000 like it is. So sell that, you make a lot more money, and then you just slowly sell the other stuff. All right. So, and then they also take stuff out of grains, especially, and then they put one little thing that's nice for marketing back in, and then they call it enriched.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't want to demonize like all of the food producing companies out there. I just want you to be aware of what they do, because you know the margins are razor thin, and they got to grow the stuff, and it's got a shelf life. It will expire. So
Well, if you don't think grains are dangerous, they took all the grains out of dog food because it was killing dogs.
wow, yeah. Even rice, you take rice out.
They brown rice. They took rice out, but they put brown rice in.
Okay, interesting. All right. Other inflammatory foods. Legumes. All right, so legumes are primarily carbohydrates. Sometimes in certain people, it causes a large inflammatory response. Sometimes it doesn't. This is one of those, it could be, it might not be. Like peanut allergies, like somebody who's allergic to peanuts. I actually dated a girl who was deathly allergic to peanuts. So if I ever kissed her after eating a Reese's cup, I would probably be investigated for murder if she died.
Wow. That's an allergy right there.
Yeah, that's a serious allergy.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
EpiPen was
Yeah, Mylan Specialty made the EpiPen, which I don't know what those things go for nowadays, but they're freaking not cheap.
Yeah. So now we're just down to fruits and vegetables is all that's left to eat, right?
No, there are meats that are great. There are meats that are great to eat, like cows. Now you have to be aware. You should be like aware of what you're eating is eating. All right. So the cows that you eat, if they're eating the glyphosate,
Yeah, then we're eating it.
well, not necessarily, but you're not eating a healthy animal.
Yeah.
You're eating, one of those mass market animals, and your health is going to be average or at best. All right. Let's see. When it comes down to it, if you're going to be very diligent about what you eat, I want you to concentrate more on avoiding glyphosate and avoiding these proteins in the grains that I'm talking about. Now I remember where I was in the talk. The proteins in the grains. All right, who's ever heard of gluten before?
Sure.
Okay, that's one of them, and it gets a really bad rap because of celiac disease. All right, and there's actually another one that's not nearly as well publicized, and it's called gliadin. And gliadin, when it's a GMO plant, gliadin is like worse than gluten is. Like it affects everybody. Like it's so difficult for our bodies to break that down, the gliadin, that it will cause a lot of inflammation.
Where do you get gliadin? I mean, what foods have gliadin in it?
Gliadin will be in wheat, in all kinds of wheat, but there's very little in a certain kind of wheat called einkorn wheat.
Yeah.
Great question. All right, so einkorn wheat, who has heard of einkorn wheat? Besides him? Okay,
I didn't know about it until
Cool.
Christmas.
Well, there you go.
so remember that second book that I read after I did the elimination diet, written by that doctor?
The
Who-
neurosurgeon.
Yeah, the neurosurgeon, very good, that had the dad with Alzheimer's, who was also a neurosurgeon. Well, he wrote about einkorn wheat, and einkorn wheat is like way back in Jesus' day what they ate. That is the non-GMO'd, original, like basic wheat. All right.
It's not bad. How I've heard about it was he gave me some for Christmas, package of it. And Debbie made banana bread with it, and I couldn't taste any difference.
As you can bake it into whatever you want.
Yeah. So a benefit of the einkorn wheat over the gluten-free stuff is that no recipe books. You just use the same ones you got.
Yep.
You know, it's easy. You don't have to explain to your friends, hey, this is gluten-free or whatever, and they don't look at you like you got two heads. You know, and einkorn wheat has a lot of gluten in it. It also has quite a bit of gliadin, but the ratio is on point with what we need. And it's also got a lot more minerals in it, and this company called Jovial is the one that I bought for Pop. They use this fertilizer that remineralizes the crop, so it has more, you know, magnesium in it and whatever else, you know, we need. All right.
So those are inflammatory foods.
Yes.
Back to the,
Okay, so back to the brain and those proteins that are called amyloid beta. Does anybody have any ideas about how we get those out once they've been built?
is there a way, is there a process, something like if you have heavy metals in you or something, or I don't know. I mean, I don't know,
Okay.
maybe you can't get them out, I don't know.
Get them out of what? Out of our body or out of?
Yeah, so
Out of our
they're
brain.
they're in the brain and they're around the nerves and whatnot, protecting it. And you know, it's like the football player that has just a ton of pads on. How do we get our brain to take its football pads off? It'd be like a normal.
I don't know whether
Functioning.
if you quit eating
Trick
it,
question.
and whether it will eventually just body will take care of eliminating it.
All right, so if we work out and we are breaking down proteins in our muscle, then we have to fix those muscles. So our bodies will go to the diet first for the proteins that we need. But what happens if we don't ingest any proteins? how do we fix our muscles if we aren't eating proteins?
You go to your what's already stored in you and break that down?
It's stored in the form of these amyloid beta proteins in the brain. So this is where the working out comes in. I don't just want you to not eat protein all the time. I don't want you, I'm not saying that you should avoid proteins all the time, okay? All right. But I'm saying that you should work out so that your body starts to break down these proteins that are in your brain, floating around in your brain,
Just from working out.
and not eating any protein.
So where else is protein in your body that you might be using it up from, other than the brain, if you don't eat protein? Is that the
Well,
only place it's
other than
stored?
muscles?
Yeah,
It will take from other muscles.
okay.
All right, so we need to make sure that our body knows that we're using those muscles. Don't just chop those muscles up and throw them in the fire to be recycled into, fixing the muscles that we just worked out. If we just worked out our calves, and we're repairing our calves, and we haven't worked this out in 24 hours, it's not going to take from here to fix those. It's going to take from somewhere else that we're not using. Okay? It's smart enough to know that.
Okay.
All right. Am I losing anybody? Do I still have everybody? Still got you. Cool. All right. So, and this also comes into fasting. Who has ever fasted before? You guys are fasting right now? Dad, I know you've done a 48-hour one.
I've done more than that in my life, not anything recent.
Yeah.
I didn't do it by choice.
Okay. Cool. So not just eliminating proteins from the diet for a short period of time and working out, but also go ahead and eliminate the other stuff too. Your firefighters won't have any inflammatory responses to get called out to. It can get a lot of stuff done now that it doesn't have anything to fight. It'll play catch up. It's a great way. A 48-hour one is a great way. Now you don't have to start there. You can start with a 16-hour one. So that's eat dinner, sleep, that's 8 hours, and then 8 hours after you wake, then you can eat. And that's a 16-hour fast, along with a 8-hour window of eating or feeding. All right, and then what I want you to do is I want you to time your workout to right before you eat. Okay, and that'll actually do some other things. I'm about to talk about weight management here in a few minutes. We're going to take one more little break, and then I'm going to talk about weight management, and we're going to sort of connect these two. The brain and the cognitive function and the weight management go so well together. So that's what we'll talk about after the break.
You seem to know a lot about this stuff.
Well, I have to know a little bit. As a